Destroying the myth that Michael Jordan dominated a weak era. What we got? A banger video. So today we're watching the myth that Michael Jordan dominated a weak era by Johnny Arnett. He's done some good videos in the past, so I'm expecting the same here. I hope you had a good day. Let's get right into this video.
It's a narrative we've heard over and over again, often from people who want to diminish Jordan's legacy. The claim is that Michael Jordan dominated a weak era. He didn't start winning until Magic got HIV, until Bird retired because of back problems, and until the Pistons run was done. People assume that because Jordan couldn't win in the 80s, but then won in the 90s, that it's because the competition weakened. But that's an opinion that's severely lacking context. When Jordan was losing in the 80s, Michael was performing at an MVP level, but Scottie Pippen hadn't developed into a co-star until about 1990. Up until that point, Jordan was a lone all-star with a collection of role players going up against the super teams of the 80s. As good as Jordan was, alone he wasn't enough to take down a collection of all-stars like Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, and Robert Parrish, or a Pistons team with Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, Bill Laimbeer, and Dennis Rodman. It takes a team to win in the NBA, and once Scottie Pippen developed into a co-star, the Bulls never looked back. There's also the narrative that when the Bulls finally broke through and beat the Pistons in 1991, it was because the Pistons had become old and the Bulls were younger. This is a bogus narrative that does nothing but discredit the Bulls' greatness.
I did hear that narrative before for sure in a video.
The Pistons' best player, Isaiah Thomas, was only 29 years old. Joe Dumars was 27 years old, Mark Aguirre was 31, Bill Laimbeer was 33, and Dennis Rodman was 29.
Why do y'all call Bill Laimbeer so dirty in the comment section? I have no clue. I know he was part of the Bad Boy Pistons and he fouled people, but I've seen stories where they call him like one of the dirtiest players ever. If y'all want me to watch a video on that, let me know.
Most of their best players were in the prime age of their careers, yet the Bulls were too much for them. At that point, we had seen the Bulls and Pistons face each other in the playoffs 4 years in a row. So although the matchup between the Bulls and Pistons was getting old, the Pistons certainly were not. The Bulls didn't start winning because the talent around the league had weakened. They won because a prime Jordan got some much-needed help that the other stars like Thomas and Bird had been enjoying throughout the 1980s. This weak era narrative doesn't just stem...
So has Bird and Thomas ever played on a bad team? Or no? Like NBA-wise?
From Jordan's failures in the 80s, but it also comes from people discrediting the teams he faced in the finals throughout the 90s. So with that being said, let's break it down year by year, looking at each team Jordan faced in the NBA Finals. The 1991 LA Lakers. The 91 Lakers finished the year with the third best record in the Western Conference with a 58-24 record.
Magic looking swaggy.
They were led by a still elite Magic Johnson, who even at 32 years old, still put up his usual 20 points and 12 assists per game. James Worthy was his usual running mate, who was averaging 21 points per game over the course of the year. There was also quality supporting players like Byron Scott, Vlade Divac, and Sam Perkins. With all of that being said, this was not the same Lakers team of the 1980s. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar had recently retired, and both James Worthy and Byron Scott suffered injuries in Game 4 of the series versus the Bulls. Magic Johnson simply didn't have enough support to make the series interesting for Jordan and the Bulls, and the Bulls won the championship comfortably in only 5 games. In my opinion, this was the easiest opposition Jordan ever faced in the NBA Finals. The 1992 Portland Trail Blazers. The 92 Blazers finished the regular season with a 57-25 record, which was the best record in the Western Conference.
Yeah, that's good.
They were coached by Rick Adelman, who was a respected coach around the league and an annual Coach of the Year candidate. Adelman won nearly 60% of his games over his career and regularly coached teams into being elite squads defensively. This Portland team was no exception, as they were ranked the third best team in the league defensively that year. They were obviously led by Clyde Drexler, who was in the prime of his career, averaging 25 points, 7 boards, and 7 assists.
I seen a Clyde Drexler video against Larry Bird too, and he was going crazy. And I just seen this clip. Do I need to watch the Clyde Drexler highlights? Let me know, because he's flying.
Clyde was the second best shooting guard in the league behind Jordan. Behind their superstar in Clyde, they had plenty of depth to back him up. Clyde's co-star was the point guard Terry Porter, who averaged nearly 20 points per game and orchestrated the team's elite offense. Terry was also one of the most lethal and efficient three-point shooters in the game, which helped spread the floor for the Blazers. At small forward, they had the 29-year-old Jerome Kersey, who just 2 years prior was averaging 20 points per game of his own. They also had Buck Williams at power forward, who was a walking double-double. He was the Rookie of the Year his first year in the league, and Buck was also one of the best defenders in the league at his position. Buck made 4 all-defense teams and was a 3-time NBA All-Star. On top of all of that, they had other quality and veteran players with experience, like the scrappy Danny Ainge, Clifford Robertson, and Kevin Duckworth, and each of those guys had made All-Star appearances in their careers. The Deep Blazers had a total of 6 players who averaged double-digit scoring that year.
Yeah, I'm watching a Drexler video. This dude looking crazy. Wasn't he also allegedly the person that was trying to say was going to be better than Jordan? So this finals definitely has some type of significance then. Because wasn't they trying to say that Drexler was going to run Jordan off or something along those lines?
Compared to the Bulls, who only had 3 players, Jordan, Pippen, and Horace Grant. So I think you get the point. This Blazers squad was absolutely loaded with talent, and although many of the names on that team have since been forgotten, it would have been absolutely ludicrous in 1990.
The hairstyle of Drexler is insane, though. I don't know what you got, Drexler. Your game speaks for itself, but the hairstyle, I don't know.
2, if you had said their team was weak. The 1993 Phoenix Suns.
Okay.
The 93 Suns had finished the NBA season with a 62-20 record, which was the best record in the entire NBA. Not only did they have the best record in the league and the league's top-rated offense, but they also had the league MVP. Charles Barkley was one of the greatest players in NBA history.
Facts, man. Put some respect on Barkley's name. I just watched some highlights on Charles. I forgot. Like, now I'm looking at this. Jordan really was beating good teams, man. You cannot say he was playing trash people. For real. Like, the worst team I heard so far was the Lakers, like he said, and they had Magic Johnson still. And James Worthy still. And he suffered injury midway through the season, but... No, Game 4 he suffered injury. But look, though, he still had Magic on the team. So, that was the worst team, a team led by Magic Johnson. And then he beat the MVP, Charles Barkley. Zion on steroids? Come on. Come on, man.
Who was just 29 years old and coming off of a season where he averaged 25 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 assists. Helping Barkley was an elite 26-year-old point guard, Kevin Johnson, who was a 3-time All-Star and had been on 5 All-NBA teams. Kevin Johnson, the energy and effort behind the Suns season, and had averaged 18 points and 9 assists that year. On this year's Suns was also the recently acquired Danny Ainge, who crossed paths with Jordan a lot in the playoffs. They also had Dan Marley, who was one of the best wing defenders in the NBA at this time, and was also an elite three-point shooter who was chipping in 17 points per game that season.
Okay.
Add in quality veteran scorers like Tom Chambers
and they had Tom Chambers? Okay, I just see him too. This Suns team was also really good. Dang, Jordan. I seen Barkley and Tom on the same team. I mean, I knew this from the highlight reel, but I forgot that Jordan played both of them at the same time. Jordan, you should know.
And Cedric Ceballos, and what you have is one of the greatest teams ever to fail to win a championship. I'm telling you guys, this Phoenix team was incredible. They had absolutely everything, but it just wasn't meant to be. The Bulls were clicking at the right time, and Jordan had arguably the greatest final series of any player ever, as he averaged an incredible 41 points, 8.5 rebounds, and 6.3 assists over a hard-fought 6-game series.
41 points in the finals, yo. He averaged 41 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists. Yo. And he was probably probably just driving to the basket, doing his little pull-up mid-range with the tongue out. Not even shooting that many threes, too. That was just him just scoring, 41 points on that finals game. That is insane.
Series. The 1996 Seattle Supersonics. This Sonics team was another nasty one. The 96 Sonics finished their season with a 64-18 record, which was the best record in the Western Conference, but was still overshadowed by the Bulls' 72-10 record. They were coached by a Coach of the Year winner, George Karl, and with the exception of Jordan's Bulls, the Sonics had the best defense in the league that season. This Sonics group didn't have a single player who averaged...
Yo, number 40 is going crazy, though. Yo, why is number 40 going so crazy? Isn't that low-key? That's Kemp, though, right? I might have to watch some Sean Kemp highlights. Y'all been telling me, and after seeing this, I'm going to have to watch some. Yo, I seen, like, a couple of his highlights, like, here and there from my dad showing me, but I haven't really watched the full highlight clip. But I'm not going to lie, Supersonics, I heard enough. This was a 72-10 Bulls. Y'all had no chance. Like, I feel bad for y'all.
Over 20 points per game that season, but they were extremely gritty and well-balanced. They had their prime superstar tandem of Gary Payton and Sean Kemp. Kemp averaged nearly 20 points and 11 boards and was known for his ferocity and aggression around the rim. Payton was also averaging almost 20 points, was an excellent facilitator, and was that season's steals champion and Defensive Player of the Year.
Ooh.
Then you had Hersey Hawkins, who was a quality scorer and spark for the Sonics, Detlef Schrempf, a 6'9 small forward who was a 2-time Sixth Man of the Year winner who was averaging 17 points per game that season. These are the type of guys that people don't remember, but who are the difference makers in playoff basketball. This Sonics team was definitely championship worthy. With their collection of talent and their gritty defensive identity, they really remind me of the 2003-2004 Detroit Pistons, who used their team effort to take down the super team Lakers. As worthy as the Sonics team was, no one was beating Jordan and the 72-10 Bulls that season.
Okay.
The 1990s...
Yo, that team did sound nasty, though. I knew Gary Payton was good on defense, but what I just heard from him on offense, I didn't know that. I didn't know he was a good facilitator and all that. I just heard about his defensive stats. But for him to be the steals leader, defensive player of the year, and average 20 points, and I forgot the assist.
7 Utah Jazz. The 97 Jazz finished the regular season with a 64-18 record, which was the best record in all of the Western Conference. The Jazz were the second best offense in the league that season, behind Jordan's Bulls, and they were also a top 10 defensive team. If you exclude Magic Johnson and Tim Duncan, then the 97 Jazz had arguably the greatest power forward ever and the greatest point guard ever in their starting five. Stockton and Malone were a dynamic championship-worthy tandem on both the offensive end and the defensive end. Even beyond Stockton and Malone, the Jazz had plenty of depth that's been forgotten over the years, like Jeff Hornacek, who was a consistent and reliable third option for the Jazz, who was one of the best three-point shooters in the league. You know this Jazz team was legit by simply considering who they had to beat just to get to the finals. In the Western Conference Finals, the Jazz defeated the Houston Rockets in 6 games. A Rockets super team stacked with Hakeem Olajuwon, Charles Barkley, and Clyde Drexler leading the way.
Tough.
This Jazz team earned their stripes, but the Bulls handled them comfortably in 6 games.
Boys comfortably. But he ended up seeing them again, though, so they probably thought they was going to have a chance to win it this year. That sucks. You got matched up against MJ 2 years in a row, man. You had no chance, literally.
98 Utah Jazz. The 98 Jazz had relatively the same strong roster and finished the regular season with the best offense in the league and a 62-20 record. The most significant thing that changed since the previous season was that the Bulls had weakened. Jordan was 35 years old, Rodman was 37 years old, and Pippen was 32 and had missed nearly half of the season due to his laboring back problems. Yet despite all of those disadvantages, Jordan still led the Bulls to win in 6 games over the Jazz for their second straight season. In that final series, Jordan quite literally carried the Bulls as he averaged 33.5 points of the Bulls' 88 points per game that series. Now that I've recapped each finals team Jordan faced in the 90s, I want to make my closing point about generational talent. It's easy for the casual NBA fan to look at Jordan's competition of the 90s and criticize it because people simply don't remember the talent or weren't even watching at the time, so they don't truly know how talented those teams were. Think of the impact players in today's game, like Andre Iguodala, Steven Adams, Lou Williams, and Eric Gordon. These are just a few examples of talented players who are often the difference in wins and losses for their teams, But in a few decades, no one will be talking about these guys the same way no one talks about guys like Terry Porter, Dan Marley, Detlef Schrempf, and Jeff Hornacek. At a certain point, people won't remember the overall talent of teams, and it becomes just about the stars. The young casuals will say things like, "So Jordan and Pippen beat Barkley in the finals, big deal. What else did Barkley have?" A lot, actually. Heck, sometimes it's not even the solid role players who get forgotten, but sometimes it's even the star players themselves.
Yeah, like I need to watch some Clyde Drexler and some Kemp, because like Drexler, I haven't seen none of him, but he looks nasty too. He looks nasty.
A perfect example of a modern player who could eventually be forgotten is Paul George. Sure, he puts up great numbers and was even an MVP candidate for a while this year, but in 2 to 3 decades, people won't be talking about this guy. How do I know this? Because I've already seen it with guys like Adrian Dantley, Sidney Moncrief, Clyde Drexler, and Alex English. These were guys who averaged 25 to 30 points per game and carried their franchises year in and year out. But into the future, people generally don't talk about the greats who didn't win championships. So again, with that in mind, it's easy to see why people diminish Jordan's competition in the 90s, because when Jordan was playing in the 90s, he was the only one winning. And those are the ones we remember.
That makes a lot of sense. I like how he worded that, how he did that right there. I like how you put that together.
No matter how you try and spin it, the reality is that Michael Jordan led a Bulls team that dominated an era of legitimate and fierce competition that many people just simply don't remember or just never knew. Thanks for watching my video, guys. Let me know in the comments section how you grade Michael Jordan's competition in the NBA Finals. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.
Hey, I like that video. I hope you did too. But that makes a lot of sense. I like that video a lot. Johnny Arnett has been snapping recently. Y'all put me on to him though. I might have to subscribe. I gotta subscribe to him actually. If you watch the video all the way through, you should subscribe too, actually. You know what I'm saying? You like how I put that together. But it's your boy Torie Sama. I'm about to go to sleep. I'm tired. I gotta wake up tomorrow. I know you do too. Well, actually, when I post this, it's gonna be in the morning. So, good morning. If you're watching this, good morning, good afternoon, good night. Whatever point day you watch this, you got something. You know what I'm saying? You feel special. So, I'm out. I have a good night and morning and afternoon.